I was sanding the final edge of the music box when my phone buzzed in my pocket, its vibration jolting me more than the sawdust prickling my palms. The garage smelled of pine and metal, fresh cut wood mingling with the faint tang of my sweaty shirt. Above my workbench, the old wall clock ticked steadily, its second hand clicking in time with the distant hum of evening traffic on Maple Drive. I set the chisel aside and wiped my hands on a rag, the metallic taste of dust still on my tongue. Pulling the phone out, I saw an unknown number and a single notification: "You need to see this." My heart hammered as I tapped the message. Beneath it awaited a photo attachment. The image loaded, her smiling face, hair swept back, leaning close to his, our childhood friend Mark, his arm wrapped around her waist. They stood in the soft glow of our living room, streamers from the surprise party I'd spent weeks planning drooping overhead. In her hand, she held the half-finished music box I'd crafted for our 10th anniversary, its lid still unetched, the inner mechanism exposed. Their laughter was frozen in mid-echo, a silent betrayal. My chest tightened. I lifted my hand toward the metal clock pendulum and felt its cool weight against my palm, searching for steadiness. Not now. Stay calm. I took a slow breath, tasting copper at the back of my throat, and exhaled through my nose. The workshop lights flickered overhead as if uncertain whether to illuminate this moment. Glancing around the garage, I saw the blocks of oak waiting to be cut, the varnish cans lined up like soldiers, the blueprints for our new kitchen cabinets still taped to the wall. All of it, our plans, our dreams, laid out in orderly rows, now tainted by the image on my screen. I slid the photo full screen and noted every detail: the way Mark's shirt pulled taut across his broad shoulder, the way her blouse caught the lamp's glow, the tiny flecks of paint on the workshop floor beneath their feet. They were here. While I thought she was supervising our daughter's dance recital. My mind raced through the day's schedule, her text at noon, running late at school. Be home soon. The memory felt like a lie. Hands still trembling, I backed away from the bench and closed the music box's lid. Its unfinished surface, etched only with our wedding date, felt more fragile now than ever. I pressed my palm against the cool wood, grounding myself. Gather facts. No outbursts. I nudged the wood plane aside and tapped the photo's timestamp, June 20th, 5:17 p.m., 2 hours ago, while I'd been mounting the final hinge. The garage door rattled as a breeze slipped through the slight gap beneath it. Outside, a car door thumped, someone calling a child's name. Our daughter's practice was ending. The life I'd believed in, the routines, the trust, fractured in a single frame. I turned away from the phone and reached for the rag, wiping the last sawdust from my hands. I set the music box upright on the bench, its lid facing me like a judge. This box was supposed to carry our song. Now it carries the proof. I slipped the phone into my pocket, my fingers brushing its smooth glass. In the hush that followed, I felt the steady tick of the wall clock, each second a call to action. My pulse slowed, replaced by a cold clarity. I exhaled, tasting resolve instead of despair. Turning off the workshop light, I left the music box in the dim glow, then walked out through the garage door, each step measured, each thought precise. Outside, the evening air was cool, the streetlights casting long shadows. I whispered to the night, "This begins now," and let the steady click of the clock guide me toward what had to come next. In the soft light of dawn, I can still hear her laughter ringing through our first date at that rooftop jazz club, her head thrown back in delight as the saxophonist hit a blue note so rich it felt like honey in the air. We'd met by chance, both reaching for the same cocktail menu, and within an hour I was entranced by her easy grace. She wore a crimson dress that night, and I'd told her she made even the city lights jealous. Back home, our traditions grew as naturally as the ivy on our porch. Saturday mornings meant blueberry pancakes, her secret recipe, stacked in a tower too tall to eat in one sitting. I'd sit at the counter, sipping coffee so strong it bit at my tongue, and watch steam curl around her as she hummed a tune I could never name. Our daughter would tumble downstairs, hair a tousled halo, and she'd join us in a symphony of syrup drips and morning giggles. We tackled home projects together with the precision of a well-oiled team. I handled the saw and hammer, she orchestrated measurements and finishes. Last spring, we ripped out the outdated kitchen cabinets and installed sleek white units together. She'd hand me the drill and steady the plywood, her eyes bright with that same spark I'd first fallen for. When our neighbor complimented our work, we shared a triumphant grin, two halves of a perfect whole. Yet amid these vivid memories, tiny cracks began to form. The first came late one night when I woke to the glow of her phone under the covers, even though she'd promised to keep it tucked away after bedtime. I crept to our bedroom door and pressed my ear against the jamb. I heard laughter, low, intimate, and the snap of photo shutters. When I asked her the next morning, she brushed it off as a friend's group chat. I believed her, the trust cushion soft beneath my doubts. Then came the unexplained receipts. I found one for Gourmet Delights, a chocolate shop downtown, dated a Wednesday afternoon. She claimed it was a thank you gift for her book club, but they'd met at the library, not the city center. I tucked the receipt into my workshop drawer, planning to ask later, but the moment passed. Our daughter's recital night offered more secrets. I arrived home early from work, expecting her to be at the studio. Instead, the house was empty, no laughter, no music box melody I'd built. Her phone pinged as I entered, a selfie of her and Mark, our childhood friend, arms slung around each other at the cafe. I stared at the image, heart sinking, then noticed the background, our living room streamer still hanging, a strand of fairy lights blinking in half-celebrated triumph. That was supposed to be our surprise. I found more in her message history. Using our shared tablet for calendar updates, I navigated to her archived chat with Mark. I scrolled through their conversation, first polite planning of our anniversary surprise, then a shift into playful teasing, imagine her face when the lid pops. His reply, better make sure you're here to see it. Next entries vanished, but the timestamps remained, wed, Thursday, Friday, deep into the night. Bank statements confirmed the pattern. Multiple Uber charges at 11:47 p.m. and 1:12 a.m., times she claimed to be asleep. I printed them out, highlighted the lines in pale yellow, and slipped them into a manila folder labeled questions. Each anomalous detail piled up, the forgotten coffee mug in the dishwasher stained with unfamiliar lipstick, the perfume I recognized from Mark's cologne line, lingering on her coat collar. I paid attention when friends visited. One evening, Sarah, our neighbor, pulled me aside. Did you know they've been spending a lot of time together? Just the two of them, she whispered. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Later, I cornered Mark at his own front door. He stammered, we were only talking about the party. His eyes flicked to mine, but I saw the hesitation there. Back in the quiet of my study, I spread out my evidence, the cafe photo, the Uber printouts, the chocolate shop receipt, and the sticky notes detailing every discrepancy. I retrieved the half-finished music box from its workshop cradle, tracing its etched wedding date with a fingertip. It was meant to be the melody of our love, now it felt like the first note in a requiem. Still, I refused to let anger win. I closed my eyes, inhaled slowly, and tasted the lingering ash of my wife's cigarette, hers, not mine, on the breeze drifting through the open window. Each small clue sharpened my resolve. I pivoted the music box to face the drafting table, its empty interior poised to hold not just gears and springs, but the inventory of truth I would gather next. Betrayal had crept into our life, silent, unnoticed. Now, I would meet it with eyes wide open, every small suspicion catalogued, every memory re-examined, turning pain into precision. The morning after I finished cataloging every shred of doubt, I woke with a singular clarity hardening in my chest. I brewed a cup of black coffee, its bitterness a welcome anchor, and carried it to the workshop, where the half-built music box lay on the workbench beside my tools. The wedding date etched on its lid caught the sunrise, each numeral a reminder of promises now questioned. I set my coffee down, ran my fingertip over the engraving, and resolved, I would marshal every piece of evidence, every ally, every procedural step to reclaim my life. 1. Retaining legal counsel. By mid-morning, I found myself in the waiting room of Reynolds and Carter Family Law, portfolio in hand. Inside the paneled office, Attorney Claire Reynolds offered a firm handshake as I laid out my exhibits, the cafe photo with Mark, Uber receipts, bank statements for Gourmet Delights, Sarah's whispered warning, and tablet screenshots of their late-night chats. She flipped through each with professional detachment, then closed her notebook. You've built a thorough record, she said. Under attorney-client privilege, we'll preserve this securely. Next, we'll draft petitions for temporary custody, support, and asset preservation orders. I'll send you an engagement letter today. We'll need all exhibits organized and ready to file within 5 business days. As I signed the retainer and privilege agreement, a weight lifted. This betrayal would not be met with chaos, but with careful, lawful steps. 2. Enlisting a support network. That afternoon, I called my brother, Michael, a systems engineer with a knack for discreet setup. Over takeout in his living room, I spread out printed exhibits and explained my plan. He nodded, sliding on rubber gloves. I'll install cameras in your hallway and living room this weekend. Timestamps, high resolution, motion activated. No one will know they're there. Later, I met Dr. Lauren Chen, my college roommate turned psychologist, for coffee. I described behavioral patterns I'd observed, Mark's lingering eye contact in photos, my wife's nervous laughter when certain names were mentioned. She offered guidance on framing questions and capturing admissible audio. If you record any conversation, make sure it's in a place where she can't claim lack of consent. A public area of the house might be best. Between Michael's technical prowess and Lauren's behavioral expertise, I felt fortified by a quiet coalition. 3. Preserving and cataloging evidence. Saturday dawned crisp. Michael arrived with 2 discrete cameras, one for the hallway outside her office, the other covering the front hallway near the living room. He ran cables through the attic, mounted each unit just below the ceiling, and tested their feeds, clear, monochrome night vision with daytime overlays. Later, he helped me hide a small audio recorder in the foyer's decorative vase, its microphone channeling every passing whisper. Back in the workshop, I backed up my wife's phone using an encrypted drive, chat logs, deleted texts, location history, and photo metadata. I printed critical pages, Uber app screenshots, bank statement excerpts, and bound them into a presentation folder stamped, Exhibits for Reynolds and Carter. I labeled each item, then locked the drive, the printed folder, and the original cafe photo inside a small safe bolted beneath my desk. On my desk, the music box waited, a symbol of the life I'd once envisioned. I placed it beside the safe, its unfinished interior a perfect metaphor, a vessel ready to hold the final proof of truth. 4. Drafting and notarizing proposals. Monday morning, I met Jenna, the notary next door, at her office. I presented her with 2 documents drafted by Attorney Reynolds, a custody and visitation proposal, and an asset division spreadsheet. The custody proposal specified joint legal custody, ensuring shared decision-making for our daughter. Primary physical custody with me, with visitation every other weekend and specified holiday rotations. Support, temporary child support per state guidelines, and a provision for spousal support pending final decree. The asset spreadsheet outlined marital home equity and 401k balances. Savings and investment accounts. Personal property, the music box project and workshop tools to remain with me, her jewelry collection and quilts to remain with her. Jenna stamped each page, notarized the signatures, and sealed the documents in tamper-proof envelopes. Each embossed seal felt like armor, turning ink into enforceable safeguards for my daughter's future and my own stability. 5. Financial planning and valuation. That afternoon, I sat with our financial planner, Simone Patel, at her downtown office. I slid over copies of the spreadsheet and bank statements. Simone ran valuation scenarios. Home equity, projected sale values, with equitable split or potential buyout options. Retirement accounts, balances as of date of filing. Joint savings, freeze pending final decree, monthly review. She pointed out tax implications of transferring the marital home and recommended we propose a 65-35 split in my favor, reflecting my primary custody role and housing needs. She forwarded a concise report and recommended language to include in our settlement proposal. Armed with financial clarity, I left her office feeling one more domain of my life secured. 6. Preparing for the hearing. By Wednesday, my study looked like mission control, walls strewn with timelines, color-coded Excel charts, and the music box perched beside the locked safe. I rehearsed my opening statement aloud. On June 20th at 5:17 p.m., Exhibit A, a photograph sent anonymously from 31255500198, captures Ms. Allen in an intimate embrace with Mr. Thompson, our childhood friend, inside our home under the guise of an anniversary surprise. Exhibit B confirms her return via Uber at 6:45 p.m., charged to the joint account. Each rehearsal steadied my voice, transforming trembling readiness into measured authority. That evening, Attorney Reynolds emailed the hearing date, July 10th at 9 a.m., and requested a final exhibit list by July 1st. I updated my spreadsheet, verifying each document, each timestamp, each sealed envelope. By channeling shock into structure, seeking professional counsel, enlisting trusted allies, preserving every scrap of proof, and formalizing proposals through notarization and financial planning, I built a fortress of evidence around my resolve. The music box, once an emblem of our shared future, now stood as testament to methodical transformation, from grieving husband to deliberate seeker of justice. As the late-night city lights flickered beyond my window, I closed my notebook on the final entry, prepared for hearing, evidence secured, support network in place, resolve unwavering. Betrayal's sting had become the blueprint for my reclamation, each step a testament to the power of calm, systematic action. I arrived at Reynolds and Carter's conference room at exactly 9 a.m., carrying the silver-lined music box in its velvet cloth and the framed wedding portrait beneath my arm. The morning light slanted through the blinds, tracing parallel lines across the polished mahogany table. My wife entered with her attorney, shoulders slumped, eyes flicking nervously to the two items at the table's center. I set down the music box first, its lid facing me, then placed the wedding portrait upright beside it, our younger smiles looking out at us like ghosts. Attorney Reynolds welcomed us and opened her binder. "Mr. Allen has provided Exhibits A through D for review," she said, her tone neutral. "We'll go through each, then discuss resolution." She clicked the remote. Exhibit A appeared on the flat screen, the photograph from my workshop text, my wife leaning into Mark's embrace, the unfinished music box clutched in her hand. Their laughter, suspended in that single frame, felt louder than any courtroom roar. My wife's hand moved to her mouth. I met her gaze quietly. "You said you were helping me with the anniversary surprise," I said softly. "Instead, you were here with him." My voice did not waver, each word carried the weight of proof. Reynolds advanced to Exhibit B, Uber app screenshots, rides logged at 6:45 p.m. and 9:12 p.m., both charged to our joint account. "These receipts confirm her movements after our daughter's recital," Reynolds noted. I slid the printed pages toward my wife and watched her attorney nod in acknowledgement. Then Exhibit C, bank statements showing purchases from Gourmet Delights on 2 separate afternoons, matched to the book club dues receipt. I tapped the screen. "You told me it was for our charity event prep," I said. "But these dates don't match any meeting." I laid out the receipt beside the sheet. My wife's attorney cleared his throat. She glanced at her client, whose cheeks had flushed the pale color of betrayal. Reynolds clicked to Exhibit D, a series of text message logs from the shared tablet, private messages between my wife and Mark. First, innocent planning about our surprise, "Can't wait to see his face when he hears it," then lines that turned intimate, "You look beautiful tonight," and, "I wish I could stay longer." The room felt smaller, charged with every unsaid word behind those messages. I lifted the wedding portrait. "This photo," I said, placing it in front of my wife, "was taken on our wedding day. Look at the promise in our eyes." I tapped its ornate frame. "That promise was entrusted to you." I set the frame on her side. "And this," I added, picking up the music box, "you used to hide your betrayal." I opened its lid, the mechanism rattled in half-formed melody, stuttering like a broken vow. "It's unfinished, just like our trust." Silence stretched. My wife drew in a shuddering breath. "Michael, I'm so sorry," she whispered. Her apology hovered between us, fragile as glass. Reynolds nodded and placed a settlement sheet before us, bullet-pointed terms for custody, visitation, and property division. "Based on these exhibits, Mr. Allen's proposal is equitable," she said. "If both parties agree, we can avoid protracted hearings." My wife's attorney exchanged a look with her client. Finally, my wife picked up the pen, fingers trembling as they brushed the music box mechanism. She signed. I followed suit, placing my signature with deliberate calm. Reynolds stamped the agreement. The quiet click echoed like a verdict. We rose. I offered my wife a brief nod, no warmth, but no malice, only the resolve of someone who had met betrayal with clarity. As we filed the signed papers, I glanced once more at the mechanism's half-composed tune and the wedding portrait's steadfast gaze. Outside, the corridor was bright with midday sun. In my hand, I carried the signed agreement, in my mind, every measured step that had led us here. The music box and wedding photo remained on the table, a silent testament to broken promises and to the unwavering strength of justice met with calm resolve. A fortnight later, the court's final decree arrived by certified mail. I sat at the kitchen table, where the first text had felled me, and read the judge's handwritten endorsement, joint legal custody, primary physical custody granted to me, generous bi-weekly visitation for her, and a precise division of marital assets. Our home remained mine, with her share held in escrow, retirement accounts and savings were split equitably. Spousal and child support were set per state guidelines, ensuring our daughter's needs were prioritized. I folded the decree and placed it beside the wedding portrait on the mantel, a bookend to both our vows and their unraveling. Across the room, the music box sat on the workshop bench, its half-formed mechanism waiting for a new purpose. I stood, stretched my shoulders, and felt a calm settle where grief and anger once churned. That afternoon, I returned to my garage workshop. I retrieved chisels and fine grit sandpaper and set to work on the music box's lid. With each careful shaving of wood, I transformed its exposed mechanism into a keepsake chest, a container for hope rather than betrayals. I carved a simple inscription inside, "For time reclaimed." As I polished the satinwood finish, I imagined our daughter placing treasured mementos, her first dollar, a seashell from beach vacations, each item a testament to the life we still shared. On Saturday evening, I invited close friends over for a backyard dinner, our old gathering spot where laughter once echoed under string lights. Tom and Lucas arrived first, bearing salads and stories from their week. We grilled burgers and caught up on banalities, the neighbor's new puppy, fantasy football standings, local high school sports. My daughter darted between us, her giggles a brighter melody than any unfinished music box tune. When she asked to help me set the table, I handed her the newly finished chest. She placed a small shell inside and beamed. Sunday morning dawned golden. I launched my blog, Melodies Reclaimed, with a post titled, "Rebuilding from Betrayal." I outlined steps for preserving evidence, drafting custody proposals, and leaning on trusted allies. I shared the story of the music box transformation, inviting others to repurpose their own symbols of betrayal into vessels of resilience. Within hours, messages arrived. "Your calm maps gave me direction. Thank you for showing strength without rage. I'm not alone in my recovery." That evening, I walked our daughter to her piano lesson and waited in the lobby, the soft strains of her scales drifting through the door. In my pocket rested the music box chest, now holding the first of many keepsakes. As she emerged, flushed with accomplishment, she waved excitedly, and I scooped her into my arms. Back home, I placed the chest on my nightstand beside the wedding portrait and the framed decree. The trifecta of symbols, a vow, a judgment, and a reclaimed promise, stood sentinel over the room. I whispered goodnight to my daughter, then paused by the window, the night air cool and clear. In that hush, I felt no bitterness, only a steady heartbeat and the quiet promise of each new second. Betrayal had tried to steal my time, instead, I had reclaimed it, one deliberate act at a time. And with the pocket watch's steady tick and the music chest's silent melody, I knew I was finally at peace.